Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check it out today, because we're going to be talking about early spring bass fishing, sort of in the pre-spawn phase, which depending upon what part of the country you're in, usually February, March. This is going to be the techniques that we're going to talk about today, and it's going to be right around the corner, man. At the time of filming this video, we're into the second week of January, so not going to be much longer, and these early spring techniques are going to be working good. So I've got 4 different lures here that I'm going to go over. They're 4 of my favorite early spring lures. I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice on how to fish them and sort of get you guys some good juice in today's video. Also, guys, in preparation for for spring fishing, anyone interested in looking or buying one of my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns, we also have all the spring maps up there. These are maps I built for fishthemoment.com. that gives you 40 GPS waypoints specifically on your favorite lake around the country. You can download them straight to your fish finder. We've got a bunch of different information for pre-spawn fishing. So I'll put the Fish the Moment, my Fish the Moment lake map breakdown link in the description. And also, if you buy one of the maps, please feel free to shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat, Professional Angler, and I'll answer any questions you have on that map. So I really appreciate that. Okay, this is early spring is my favorite time to fish in terms of catching quality fish. Now, I like fishing probably in the summer better because I love fishing in shorts and t-shirt, but as far as catching good ones, I'm going to say probably, guys, 75% of the bass that I consider big fish, you know, over 5 pounds, I bet 75% of them have come in February, March, and early April during the pre-spawn period of the year. This is when there are more quality fish up shallow catchable than any other time of the year, as far as in that, you know, less than 10-foot zone. So what I want to do today is I'm going to show you guys some of my favorites lures and sort of describe the situation that they work best in, and I think it's going to add up to some good ones for you guys. Okay, now my first one, guys, this is my lure, my #1 big bass lure. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a ton of bites on it, although you can. I mean, you can catch 20 fish a day on it, but you can't beat, in the early spring, a big spinnerbait. When I'm talking a big spinnerbait, I'm talking about a 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce spinnerbait, large profile, full skirt with a big trailer on it. This is that Zoom Shimmer Shad with a #7 or #8 willow leaf blade, tandem spin like this. Now, this is a big bait, guys. It's got a big profile to it, and in the early spring, the reason this thing works so good is that the size of the shad, the threadfin and gizzard shad in lakes across the country, they're bigger than there are all year long. You know, they have their last spawns over the summer, so you have a lot of really big gizzard shad that are up in that shallower water during the early pre-spawn when that water starts to hit about 50 degrees. So slow rolling this thing, guys, on steeper channel banks is a great way to catch big fish. It's like, go back in like some major creek arms and just get on the steepest banks that are in that creek arm, or sometimes even on the main lake. Throw the spinnerbait up to the bank, guys, and just slow crank it and try to keep it just off the bottom. Maybe, you know, depending upon the angle of the bank you're fishing, just throw it out there and just sort of reel it slow enough where you think that the bait's maybe that far off the bottom. And guys, that's a great way to catch big ones. And also, if you're fishing around any submergent grass, like all you guys that have hydrilla or milfoil in your lakes that are low in the wintertime or early spring, slow rolling the big spinnerbait over those deep grass beds, like at Sam Rayburn Lake, for example, in Texas, is just a great way to catch them. And most of the time with this bait, since it's so big, I fish it on 20-pound test Seagar and VizX fluorocarbon line on my flipping stick. Now, a lot of people don't fish a spinnerbait on a flipping stick, but with a bait this big, look how massive this thing is. You can imagine when a fish grabs this, you got to have a lot of force to actually penetrate that hook with all this hardware. So using a flipping stick will really enable you to make better casts and better hook sets and land more fish with that. Also, guys, I'll link every one of these lures in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to pick up all 4 of these here. Okay, big spinnerbait. Next one you can't beat, guys. This is one of the most famous pre-spawn lures of all time, is a crawdad crankbait like this Wart. Wart is my favorite. some guys like a rock crawler. There's some other variations, but any type of a crawdad pattern, wide wobbling crankbait that has a wide wobble on it is a really good early spring bait. Again, it's all about cranking rock, and that's the thing about the lures that I'm talking about. They're about rock fishing around rocky areas or submergent grass. I don't fish much wood in the pre-spawn. It's more rock or grass. But this wiggle wart, guys, outstanding lure during the pre-spawn. And again, as with it is on a lot of these baits here, it's all about channel banks. And when I'm talking about channel banks, I'm talking about the steeper banks on the lake where the creek channel or the river channel comes pretty close to the bank. Now sometimes those banks can be bluffs, they can be 45-degree angle banks, sometimes they can be gravel or clay banks that have water deep up on them. But all you have to do is look at your topographical map, your GPS, and find the places where the creek channel or the river channel comes in close and hits that bank. These are prime highways for bass during the pre-spawn, because what they do is they move along those channel banks in the pre-spawn on their way to the flats to find spawning coves. And a lot of times they stay on these steeper banks. They may hang out on them for a couple months. And that's just where you're going to catch your big ones, is on those channel banks. And most of the time, like with the crankbait and the spinnerbait, I'm trying to do some type of a 45-degree angle cast or parallel on the bank. And with the wiggle wart, I like to put it on like 8-pound test line with a spinning rod, make long parallel casts down those channel banks. Okay, the next lure, same thing, channel banks, bluff banks like that, is a full-size jig. And this is my favorite one, guys, the brown and orange. This is the Blaukat throwback jig in brown and orange living rubber. Brown and orange with a green pumpkin trailer on it. Zoom a big salty chunk here. You cannot beat a brown and orange jig during the early spring. It's the #1 color. We'll trim that up a little bit. I'll show you how I like to trim them a little bit. I don't like them uniform. I usually make them a little bit off kiltered like that. But anyway, a brown and orange jig fishing around any rock. It can be the channel banks, it can be bluffs, even riprap banks. They love a jig on bluffs during the pre-spawn, and it rivals the big spinnerbait in terms of catching big ones. A full-size jig and a spinnerbait are going to be your two top big fish lures during the early spring. And for whatever reason, guys, they are really color sensitive, and I have found that brown and orange just head and above catches more than any other color out there. And as long as that water temperature is between, like, say 2 to 6 foot, and that visibility there. But again, I'll link that in the description too, my throwback jig in there. Okay, and finally, the old standby, guys, just the traditional jerkbait. Megabass Vision 110, 4.5-inch long jerkbait, outstanding early spring pre-spawn lure. Again, the Vision 110, you know, it's going to run down 5, 6, maybe 7 feet deep on a long cast. This is a perfect zone for those pre-spawn fish. Again, on the same channel banks, riprap banks, channel banks, bluff banks, all that type of stuff. You're going to notice a little bit different, though, than the winter fishing with this jerkbait. These fish are going to be shallower during the pre-spawn, so try to target that sort of that 3 to maybe 8 foot zone. Again, 45-degree angle bank, 45-degree angle cast or parallel, depending upon how sharp the drop-off is. Usually fishing on 8-pound test Seaguar and Vizex line with a spinning rod. Outstanding pre-spawn lure. Now, all of these, guys, are quality fish baits. It's like every bait that I talked about here in the pre-spawn, you're going to average at least a 3-pound average on them, depending upon the lake that you're fishing. But these are the 4 staple baits that you really need during the pre-spawn. Again, big honking spinnerbait, full-size throwback jig, wiggle wart, and jerkbait. I can assure you, I don't care where you're at in the country, doesn't matter if you fish Florida, Texas, Alabama, Missouri, if you have these 4 baits on, when that water temperature first starts to hit 50 degrees, between 50 to 60 degrees, you're going to catch some good ones. Now, that's another thing about it, is these baits here work best when the water temperature is between 50 to 60 degrees. You get a day out there where that water temperature's in the 50s, and you got a south wind, and it's just a normal average temperature day with some overcast, you're going to catch some big fish on these baits. So anyway, I hope it helps you guys out, and we'll talk later.